You are now entering That One Studio for the What Are You Made Of show with your host, Mike C-Roc, and his guest, who will be sharing what they're made of. The journey to success has been invisible until now. Sit back, relax, get your notepad ready, enjoy the show.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Let's go. Let's go. Woo. All right, calm it down now. Calm it down. We are back on the What Are You Made Of show, and we're on a new platform. I'm excited about this, and we're also streaming live on YouTube still. But I left Fireside because they've been playing some weird games, and I just want to let you guys know that I'm here on Riverside now. I've checked out the Riverside platform. It's phenomenal so far, and I have my very first guest today, Billy Bowie, is in the building. And we're going to go and find out what Billy's made of. Before we do that, though, I just want to express to you guys, I appreciate all the support for you guys watching the shows or watching the clips on my Instagram or YouTube or wherever you find the C-Roc content. And, it means the world to me because I can't do what I do without people watching it and paying attention to it and getting something out of it. So I want to thank you and express gratitude. And, we're on Riverside, which doesn't really affect any of you, except that you're going to get better quality now. And I'm excited about this move that we're making here to the Riverside platform. So shout out to Riverside. Thank you for having your boy C-Roc over here. Let's get back to the show. Billy's in the building. Billy's a true Renaissance man in the realms of creativity, entertainment, and leadership. As the visionary founder of Elevate Experiences, Billy has carved a remarkable path as a creative producer, MC, and now a published author on the subject of leadership. Throughout his dynamic career, Billy has left his mark on the industry, collaborating with prestigious brands such as Delta Airlines, Disney, Columbia, Coca-Cola, Chick-fil-A, Home Depot. The list goes on and on and on. Now, and FIFA. With his expertise in keynote speaking and event hosting and production, he has consistently brought a touch of magic to every project he touches. Billy, welcome to the show.
Man, I am so fired up, humbled, honored to be here, my friend, and welcome to the new platform. I'm excited. The quality is amazing so far.
Yeah, thank you, man. And thank you for the sound check and everything you did in the beginning of the show that nobody else got to see. I appreciate your help with that. Yeah. So, Billy, look, we start the show the same way every time, and that is with this question that's on the wall behind me. And I do this now because I get lost in rabbit holes if I don't do it up in the beginning of the show. What are you made of?
I love going back to basics, so I absolutely adore this question of getting back to the root of what a building is made of, going back to the root of what someone is made of. I think is powerful as well. For me, I'm made up of a series of stories and experiences and events that has made me to the man I am today. Some of those were heartache, some of those were success, a lot of failure in there, a lot of people telling me I couldn't do it, a lot of chips on my shoulder that are probably still protruding through my shirt a little bit. But inside of that, I always like to say that there's a humility mixed with greatness. And so going back to the basics of I don't have it all figured out. So I can give you a series of words and stories that have made me who I am today, but I get a chance to be a father of 3 amazing girls, 1 incredible son. I'm married to an incredible woman and love what I get to do for a living. I create experiences, and my phrase for my company is to create events that people love. And so what I'm made of is how do I make what you're doing so freaking great that people will be glad to pay full price for your product or service, or they'll become a better person. Like, how do we create something like that? So that's what I'm made of.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'd love to get your thoughts because you mentioned something about not having it all figured out, and you get and create experiences. By the way, we met at the C-Roc Experience on Clubhouse.
Yes, sir.
But I have this saying that it's always better than you actually feel like it is for yourself, but it's not as good as it appears by other people from the outside. What are your thoughts on that?
We're extremely judgmental of our own space and journey. The shoulda, woulda, couldas of the world. I caught myself saying that in a meeting earlier today with Chick-fil-A, a brand that we work with a lot of, just some things that could have been or should have been or would have been. And I think about the elements of my story of getting to play college baseball at Auburn and playing for the Phillies for a little bit. And first batter I faced was Derek Jeter. And yes, I name drop, but I look at that season of life and I was like, oh, I didn't make it. And now I look back and go, what a blessing, what an opportunity. So I think as we move along in years, and it's something that earlier in life, I'm glad I had some older people that looked back at me and said, hey, just take a snapshot of where you are and actually take mental inventory. So I think it is a healthy practice, and I love being a part of Clubhouse, the C-Roc Experience. Those of you that are not in C-Roc's world, you already know you should be if you're just catching this for the first time. I love how you share, and my favorite part of the C-Roc Experience is when you're walking down the boardwalk and I can hear those birds in the background, right? I can hear the seagulls flying by. And today you had a bunch of sand trucks that were in the way. And so I love that you share the grind and the struggle of things that actually are, and something you challenge your listeners to do is to take inventory, is to just pause and really look and see. And with, your son playing football in high school, hearing how you're taking inventory of, how do I not get pissy with a coach when I want to get pissy with a coach? How do I, go to the gym? I don't know how much weight was on that bar recently on Instagram with 6,000 pounds you're squatting. If we took inventory of the current weight that we're squatting, of the current mountains that we're climbing, I just think we'd be better. And I think that's a gift that I've had for many years, is the ability to just pause and think and go, okay, gratitude, and now let's go kick ass at the same time.
Yeah, man. I love that. And I appreciate that feedback too. One of the things I noticed on your bio, Billy, is that you didn't have baseball in there. Is there a reason that you don't talk about that in the bio?
I've always been undercover and down low. It's interesting. I did a TED talk a few years ago called "How to Lead Like a Freestyle Rapper," and I take the elements of freestyle, which I'm kind of a very amateur freestyle rapper, not good at all, good enough to make people smile. That's kind of what I say about my hip hop career. But I like being the one they don't expect. On my wall that you can't see right behind this camera is I have fat heads, giant heads of different people that I respect and admire. There's Will Smith, there's Jimmy Fallon, there's Justin Timberlake, there's Steve Harvey, there's Aaliyah, there's Manuel Miranda. I've got Harry Mack right here. I've got Tupac right there. So I've got all these fat heads around my walls, and I sort of the reason I have those around me, there's parts of my story that I want you to know, like outwardly, and there's other parts I want you to just kind of uncover. And baseball is probably one of them. Probably reason you love sports as well, and the listeners, the folks that are tuning in. I connect so much with athletics because I just love the failure part of it. It's what I'm trying to teach my son right now. Is, the best hitters in baseball are going to get out 7 out of 10 times, the best ones. And so I think I like failure a lot. I like the grind of that. I sucked at basketball. I averaged about 4 points a game, 7 rebounds, but I would foul out of every game. But I never got to play basketball past high school. So sports have been a big part of it. But I feel, and this is probably mentally the things I have to work through, I feel like I'm bragging when I talk about baseball sometimes. But at the same time, every time I talk about people, like that's incredible, and it gives me more influence and more chance to impact them. So if my motives are shitty and I don't have good motives, which I question myself on that all the time, like how do I go in this with the purest intention? Like if I'm on this podcast, if I'm on this stage, how do I do this in such a way where people, they reflect on themselves? How can I get better? Not leave going, wow, that guy's awesome. So it's probably shooting myself in the foot a little bit. So thanks for calling me out. I'll add baseball to the bio.
No, well, because here's the thing. So obviously people relate to everyday stories. I talk a lot about being from a single parent family, growing up early, and
Yeah, me too.
Divorce and child support and custody battles, all that stuff, because people can relate to it, right? But there is something there where anybody that's a baseball fan or anybody that had dreams of playing baseball, they would love to hear the stories of what it was actually like. Because I wanted to play, pro football, but I just never grew big enough or fast enough. I had the heart and the desire. I just didn't, have everything that it actually took. And so I still love hearing the stories. So like, what was it like playing D1 baseball, SEC baseball? What was it like to face Derek Jeter? What was it like in the minor leagues? Let's talk about that if you don't mind.
I love talking about it. In my senior year, I was drafted by the Florida Marlins in the 60th round, which is the last round of Major League Baseball draft. I got offered $1 and a plane ticket. I still have the contract that says $1 and a plane ticket. Of course, I said no. Went to college. Went to Middle Georgia College.
Well, before you do that,
Yeah.
High school. Tell us about high school. What was it like being a really good pitcher in high school? What did that look like? Was it like strikeouts all the time, no hitters? Like, tell us about like what level were you to
took
get
2
that
no
notice?
hitters into the last inning and never actually finished the deal. Had a couple guys get some infield base hits on that, but it struck out a lot of people. Had a really good slider. I could throw 93 miles an hour in high school, which is pretty fast for high school. Now that's like really average compared to what kids are throwing these days. But it was a lot of fun, man. Getting a lot of guns behind home plate, people clocking how fast you'd throw. I'd have 20 or 30 of those at every game, and felt intimidated and that sort of thing. And it was a lot to work through, right? My parents divorced when I was 5. Dad was incredible. He would show up at every single game. Like you mentioned, child support, always paid child support on time. So I had 2 parents from a divorce situation that was the best that could possibly be. So I'm very blessed for that. Mom worked 4 jobs to get by, had a lot of grind and hustle mixed in the mix of all that. And so it was a lot of like, okay, Billy, you're making your own breakfast. You got to have a side hustle job to pay for lunch. You got practice after school, and then you got to get your homework done. So it was a lot of hustle, but I'm so grateful for it. Like high school was a pivotal time for me. Ironically, I love basketball more than baseball. I mean, I lived and breathed in the gym. I loved it, but I sucked at it. I was not good at basketball at
Yeah.
all. But baseball was a thing. But getting drafted out of high school was fun, and then junior college for a couple years. Had a choice to go to Miami, to NC State, or to Auburn. I visited all three campuses. Fell in love with Miami. Of course, you can't not fall in love with Miami. I mean, I think is that your team? BU?
I mean, I kind of like them. I mean, I like the turnover chain that they have when they're playing football. I think
Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah.
that is pretty sweet. But almost went there. I fell in love with it. But when I went on the plains of Auburn University, I mean, it just was incredible. Tim Hudson was leaving when I was coming in. But I had one coach that, said, hey, you should throw a split finger fastball like Tim Hudson. And I was joking in the bullpen, signed a 75% scholarship, was a big scholarship out of state for a baseball player. And I threw one split finger fastball and I tore my elbow. I tore the ulnar collateral ligament, which is the Tommy John surgery ligament, before I even stepped on campus there at Auburn. So tore my elbow, had to sit out in red shirt, worked out, did the whole thing for a whole year. That next summer, it was healed, no tear, no surgery, such a blessing. Transferred to Georgia State University because the coach at Auburn was like, hey, we're going to cut you after this year. We got to give that scholarship to somebody with a healthy arm. 2 years at Georgia State, and then signed a free agent. But the most fun story on with this is graduated from college, and I have all the stuff in the back of my pickup truck, like, bungee cord around it, like Sanford and Son driving down the road kind of situation. And my coach was like, hey, there's a tryout for the Florida Marlins today at our field. Baseball season's over. You should come and just give a workout. They're looking to pick up a couple people for their minor leagues. And I was like, okay, cool. Literally packing my truck up. So I pack it up, drive to the field, pull it up there. 10, 20 guys are out there, and I'm throwing, 92, 93, 94, good slider. And this Philly scout with one of those big, huge, like fisherman situations over his whole head comes out. He said, hey, Bowie, you turned in a pretty good workout out there. What are you doing tomorrow morning? And I was like, and I kind of looked. It's funny because the truck was right over his left shoulder. And I was like, hey, look right out there. That's my truck. I just graduated. I'm not doing anything. He's like, you want to be a Philadelphia Philly? I was like, hell yeah, I do. It was awesome. I was like, for sure I do. So he said, I can offer you a $500, signing bonus, and you'll make $640 a month before taxes. But you'll be on our rookie team, and you'll have a uniform. You can be there tomorrow morning. You can start at 8 a.m. I was like, what? So beelined it down there. Game was at noon the next day at the Yankees facility right there near Clearwater, Florida. We went there. I'm in the dugout, just sitting there with my name on the back of my jersey going, what? This time yesterday, I'm my Sanford and Son, Atlanta, right? I'm just like, what? And the coach is like, hey, Bowie, Balgahay, whatever your name is, go get ready. I'm like, wait, you want me to pitch? Like right now? He's like, yeah, go get loose. And our starting pitcher was walking the bases loaded, and I noticed number 2 walked out of the Yankees facility. Derek Jeter walks out and gets the on-deck circle, and I'm in the bullpen warming up, and our pitcher walks the bases loaded with Derek Jeter coming up.
Did you know who he was at that time?
Yes, of course.
Like I didn't know at rookie ball like what level.
Rookie ball usually you'll get the random guy like that he's doing a rehab assignment. He just got injured. He had hurt his wrist that year, so he was already the big time of the Yankees, and he was back down just for like a little situation. So he came out, and I was like, I'm gonna bean Derek Jeter because I don't like the Yankees. I'm gonna throw right at him. But I didn't. I ended up getting him out. He had a hard line drive to the second baseman and got him out. But anyway, it was a fun journey. I got cut the next year and didn't throw hard enough compared to the other guys. And yeah, that's the story.
That's awesome, man. So take me through, like, after your baseball career was over, like, how did you find your way? Like, because a lot of times we talk about this a lot on the show about identifying as the vehicle that you're in versus who you actually are.
Yeah.
Did you know who you were at that time? Or was that a search that you had to find? And then did that continue on, later in your life? Because for me, it was like, I didn't really find out until I was in my 40s.
Yeah. We put a lot of identity in things, as you just mentioned so well. I had put most of my identity in athletics and sports and throwing hard and getting the girls, and like that was my identity, right? When that was all stripped away, I mean, literally I came in at 8 a.m. Hey, you're cut from the Phillies. You need to have your stuff out of your locker by noon. Like, you're no longer with the Phillies. I'm like, oh. So I would like to say I bounced back really quickly and everything was fine. It was like, no, I went into a spiral for probably 6 months. I mean, I drove all the way. I was in Clearwater, drove down to Miami, and drove down to the Keys, and laid on the beach with a beer in my hand. The guy's like sunburned, laying there with a Corona. Like, what am I going to do with my life? But it was a lot of things, and I'm a person of faith, and so God just kept speaking, like, hey, just take one step in my direction, just like keep walking, have faith. I've got this. There's a journey. All of those things. And when I was playing the minors, I got the chaplain for the Braves invited me to this study, and I walk in, and the guys that were in there was Greg Maddox, John Smoltz, Jeff Foxworthy, Ernie Johnson Jr., all the Ironhead Hayward, like all these. I'm in there. Like, what am I doing in here? So for 4 years, I got to sit with these guys. We're studying the Bible, like just like learning about just life and things like that. And so that was really pivotal for me, was to have a group of people I could just get around and like rub shoulders with. And two of those guys basically gave me a job doing some things, started DJing, started producing things, realizing that I love hip hop, I love culture, I love creating environments, my business savvy sense. And now I've created a 7-figure agency just on creating event experiences. But I trace it back to the failure, right? I could have laid on that beach. That Corona was good. Now don't get it twisted. I mean, I was enjoying the Corona on the beach, but and I don't know what it is, for a listener that's listening today. This could be a wake up call for you, that at your depth, right, at your deepest part, you've got to listen to that voice. You've got to hear something outside of yourself, because I think mental health, which is a big thing I speak about when I'm talking to groups, is like, we get on that spiral. We ruminate on something so many times, and it's failure, failure, failure. There's got to be a voice of dissent that comes in and says, hey, no, it's time to pause. It's time to turn direction to go get after it. And I'm so thankful that came from me. And so it happened. And now, many years later, I can look back and be thankful, but I wouldn't say it was easy. I'm not going to bullshit and say it was like, oh, it was so simple and everything was great. Like it wasn't, but so glad I turned.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk about that agency then. First, the first event that you ever did, like how did you start the agency? How did you come up with the idea, first of all? And then what was that first event? I want to know like the beginnings. Like, it's a startup, right? Like, and I've done several startups, and sometimes I think they're fun, Billy. And sometimes I'm like, I wake up some mornings and I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh, man.
Because, and I'm going to preface this question with this, is that like, sometimes I think like, I'm so good at sales, I could go sell something and make millions. I know I couldn't work for someone else, but yet I'm not making millions right now because I'm trying to start some. It's just it's just, I don't know, man. It's wild. I don't even know what I'm doing sometimes. I really, really don't. But what was it like, that startup process, and take us through that?
It's real. I think it's very glamorizing to talk about being an entrepreneur and go starting something and, give a middle finger to the man who wants to work regular hours. And you realize that I'm not starting an idea or being an entrepreneur. I'm creating a job for myself. And so that's kind of how I began. Like, I'm creating a job for myself. View it as that. Do I like this job? Am I creating something that I actually want to do? Right. And so that's what I began with, and saying, I love entertainment. I love being on the microphone. I enjoy creating these moments where people go, holy crap, I can't believe that just happened. And so, I started just taking basically everything I could. There was a gentleman in that same study I mentioned that was doing a rodeo event for the Southern Company. It was like this mechanical bull rodeo, 4 mechanical bulls. Like, I was the DJ, and I just came in as like, we had CDs. Remember those? Like, we had CDs we were using as DJ, no MP3s, nothing like that. And I just fell in love with like choosing the right song for the right moment. And then from that event, I got 2 weddings. I had 2 people there and said, hey, can you come DJ my wedding reception? I was like, sure, I'll come DJ that. And so, what do you charge? And I was like, set a number. I was like, they were like, oh, great. I was like, crap, I should have said higher. So learning pricing, right? And learning how to actually create these moments. And then you're like, do I have insurance? And then where do I store my equipment? And what equipment do I need? So then all the questions came, but I began with like, what kind of job do I want to give myself? What would I be happy with? And I can say that, that was 23 years ago, and 23 years later, I still love the job that I have a lot. If you could see what's on the other side of this camera, my office is a wreck. Things are like crazy. In my CRM is not totally organized the way it probably could be or should be. But I still love the game. So, if I was honest, I feel the same way as you do. Somebody's like, what the heck am I doing? Like, what do I even, am I accomplishing anything,
Yeah. Am I a real businessman? Am I real, like,
Yeah.
So does it bother you at all? Cause like you saying the CRM thing and your office is a mess. And if I were to take my camera over here, you'd see it like a pile of stuff over here in front of my bookcase. Like, does it ever bother you, like, when you look at that and you're like, man, I should have this cleaned up, and you feel like everybody else has got their shit together? Like, does that ever run across your mind when really nobody's got their stuff together? Nobody has. Like, they may appear. the CRM thing, like, oh man, my CRM, I should be better with this and better organized and
Mhm.
have everything lined up. And does everybody? No. Some people might have that, but then
Yeah.
they're lacking in another area. They can't talk to them. They don't know how to talk to people, but they got their CRM lined up, you know?
Yep.
Does it ever go through your mind like that? You have to check yourself?
You know what was a quick story on that is I was in New York City the day the pandemic was announced, March the 13th, 2020, feels like decades ago. And I had a meeting with VaynerMedia, had a meeting with Claude Silver, who's Gary Vaynerchuk's chief people officer. She's awesome. And I basically emailed her out of nowhere and said, hey, I want to sit with you and learn because I was writing a book about culture. I'd love to learn from you to be able to talk about VaynerMedia's culture and heard some bad things, heard some good things. I'd love to just talk. So even in the middle of the pandemic, I had a meeting with her at noon. So of course I'm there at 11 o'clock and I'm sitting in the lobby of VaynerMedia and we're
Wow.
texting with each other, texting. And she's like, hey, it's gonna be a few more minutes. She's sitting with Gary and then we meet for lunch and she's a little bit frazzled. We had 45-minute late. She goes, I'm so sorry. I said, hey, it's totally fine. I was like, I don't even know what COVID is. I mean, you guys are trying to navigate this 1,000-person agency. Um, and she's like, it's really fun to sit with Gary in these moments because we don't want to pretend like we have it all figured out. I was like, that's so healthy. Like I said, I so appreciate you saying that because people on the outside would think like, oh, you guys got to have all the answers and you got the manual that tells you what to do. Like nobody knows necessarily. And I think we know this quote already, but comparison is the thief of joy. I think we can go to social media and see people's organization skills, and but they don't have your money making skills. For me, once a week, here's my hack. I have a 2-hour block a week and I just call it clean your shit up. Like literally 2 hours a week. And it's usually on a Friday between 9 and 11. I'm like, I just got to go hard with anything in my office that's not cleaned up. It's thrown away. It's moved. So that's helped me. That's just like a little hack. It's not to say I have it perfect because I still have things that are crazy all around, but I have to put a
Mhm.
time block in. I'm sure people listen to this podcast go, yeah, duh, I do that every day. But it's remedial for me that I have to have one day a week where I'm like, okay, I got to get things cleaned up. And I'm starting to do that with my CRM. I use HubSpot and just trying to figure out again how to use it, like going back to the basics of it. So that's a bit embarrassing. So if anybody on here knows CRM, you probably could sell me your services because I'm brutal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, you shouldn't be doing it. You should
Yeah,
get somebody else to do it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, that's what
probably
it
so.
comes down to. But in my business, so that one agency, we're about year and a half in, something like that. And I have the network and connections to go big to get channel partners that are big that could want to partner with us and supply tons of. We could just we hop right in. We are doing that with some PR agencies right now. And the thing is that I don't want to go too big because I'm impatient. I'm ready to go because you got to build your systems out. You got to build your processes out. You got to be able to be able to scale. And I can't move fast enough. It just doesn't happen, but it's like hard to have that out. So as you're going through and evolving in your business from weddings and things like that, can you take us through that evolution of getting that into from weddings to where you had events, like events, not just weddings? Like
Yeah.
how did you evolve into that? Like was it something? And reason I'm asking this is I go through my head with our business and I'm like, okay, we do podcast bookings, we get content, we got consulting. What other avenues can we add that don't take away from our main thing, but that complement everything, but that will also won't overwhelm the team? So like take us through that process for you and your business and how you did that. And you're probably still kind of dealing with that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, jeez. If anybody says they're not, is lying to you. So Elevate was once 21 people full time. 2.4 million revenue was our highest revenue year. Pandemic, 93% of our revenue went away. I mean, I had to basically tell all of our team, you got to go find somewhere else because live event industry went no. I mean, done. Right. We bought cameras. We pivoted to virtual events, stayed in business, and now we're starting to hockey stick again on just the live event stuff, which is cool. But I wrote a book in the middle of it. So anybody that signs up for my weekly newsletter gets a free copy of my book on the first email. It's kind of attached to it there. And it's called Start from Scratch. And it's kind of an 80-page journal entry of what Billy was going through in the middle of the pandemic. So a lot of that was this 3-part thing I share with everybody all, when I go speak somewhere is every decision we make as a business as we grow is 3 things. It's a tweak, it's a facelift, or it's a funeral. It's one of the 3. If this thing's like, working, we can adjust some pricing and, give it a little bit of lipstick, it's a tweak. A facelift is like, okay, we know the bones are cool, but like we got to change the whole strut, like the whole outside of it's not working. Or this thing has to die. And so for me, I don't like doing weddings. I'll never do one ever again. That was a funeral, probably
Mhm.
about 10 years ago. I was like, bridezillas are not my thing. Like, I'm good. And then we started working with Disney. Then we started working with Chick-fil-A and then Delta and Coca-Cola, and these big brands started calling, and they can add zeros to your, like, they can add zeros to your revenue, and they can add zero, and they have the budget, and they love it, and they appreciate it, and they're hands off. So I was like, hey, we need to spend time creating things for people that have the budget where we can actually do the stuff that's in our brains creatively versus like trying to nitpick and penny pinch and things like that. So, the tweak, facelift, and funeral is a good little list to
Love that.
make. We've heard of the start doing, stop doing things, but I think about my team as well is how much stress am I going to put on my team with this new idea? Is it Billy going crazy with with a new idea, or is it Billy seeing this is a thing we're doing and we need to start taking action towards it? Like, which one is it? So now in meetings, I go, hey guys, everybody put your pens down. I don't want you to write any of the stuff I'm about to say. Just let me iterate a little bit and let me just say some things I'm thinking. If we get some traction, cool. But I want to be really clear. This is not something that we're doing. Cool. And
Yep,
then I
yep,
go
yep.
off. Like that has helped me more than anything because they hear Billy get excited, like, oh, okay, we're doing it. I'm like, oh, dang it. Like you've already researched and I just want to talk about it. So
Right, right.
you know this. You're probably a similar vibe is where you get your teams on different trails and they're doing stuff. You're like, I just want to talk about it. So
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got, man, all that stuff, man. So similar. And depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes I don't feel like dealing with it. But anyway, the other thing, when I was thinking about this was, man, I had thought I was going to ask you about Disney and how you get somebody like that, but I was going to ask you something before that about, so my thing with business is like we're doing really good at what we're doing, right? But when I want to scale it to a certain dollar amount. Like I have a dollar amount in mind. Like I know because I've made a certain amount of money in my life before in other businesses, and I know I can do it. But sometimes I'm thinking to myself, is this the one to push and push the pedal down? Right? Is this podcast agency the one to push the pedal down, or is it something else? And so I'm constantly in my mind trying to stay focused on this thing when I'm thinking like, well, maybe that one would be the one. How do you stay focused on keeping it down? And the thing, and with what you did too, when you switched facelift, funeral for the wedding, facelift, and went to doing something for Disney, like how did that all transpire and how did you stay focused?
yeah, I think it's there's a power in a decision, right? I just made a decision that we're going to work with the biggest brands in the world, and we're not going to take on clients that don't appreciate who we are, and that's what we're doing. Okay, ready, break. Like that was as easy as the decision was, and I think some people think it's going to be some magic potion or a 10-step plan. I think it's more of just the decision that we make, right? And I had a mentor. This is probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. I told him I want Elevate to get to 10 million a year. That's the goal. 10 million a year is our goal in revenue. And he asked me a fantastic question. You know what he said?
Why?
Yeah. It, yeah, uh, and I had no answer because I want to. He's like, okay, that's you want to. All right. Well, what if it was $4 million? He said a $4 million business is a different level of team members and things you need compared to 10. He said, so let's keep the 10 on the radar, but let's focus more on 4. I said, yeah, it was super helpful for me to, like you said, you got to get your systems built up. You got to have consistency. We got a chance to be a part of Chick-fil-A and help them with their grand openings for 4 years. They were open 120 restaurants a year. And we had people on the ground at every single grand opening. Sometimes it was 9 in 1 week. We got to open the first one in New York City, the first one in Portland, Oregon, and they don't do
Damn.
grand openings the same way because Chick-fil-A is kind of saturated in a lot of places around the country. But there was a long season where we did that, and we needed to have more systems in place because I was going to fly people to 9 cities and the equipment and the structure and the mayor's office is going to come. We're going to cut the ribbon at this one. We're going to, like, all of that started happening. I was like, oh, I'm not sure we're ready for 10 with this model. I don't think we're ready for 10 with this model. Like you said, it could be podcasting, but it could be something totally different that's going to get you to that revenue goal. But I started counting the cost of what it was going to take to 10 million based on what I was currently doing. I was like, I'm not sure I have the capacity or the desire to make that happen there. So we capped out of where we were in that. And now I'm shifting to doing some different things that are even more profitable. So I got smarter as a businessman and said, what is profit versus top line revenue? For me, it was all top line, top line, top line. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't really care about top line much anymore. I mean, obviously it's important, but let's look at the cost, the expenses, time with my family, my health. Like, let's look at all that and put that in a conveyor belt and say, okay, as I travel along, is this what I actually want? So I don't know. I've gotten wiser in that standpoint too.
Yeah, I love that, man. And then finally, before we go to the final question, as we're winding down here, what is the best way for people to get that newsletter and get that book? Because I
Yeah,
don't think you mentioned the site.
yeah, go to billybspeaks.com. That's the website. At the bottom there, it just says newsletter. Give you a link for the notes or whatever as well. But if you go to Billy B Speaks, you'll find a place that says subscribe. What I like to say is we're very gentle with your email address. And so when you send us your email, it'll immediately send an automated email that will, tell you hello. It'll have an attachment with the book. And then every week I'll put out something that has to do with building a culture, being an entrepreneur, how do I elevate my game and my life, my leadership, and it'll also point you back to my business, Elevate Experiences. We have a cool blog I think you need to read. I'll put it in there. So my goal with that is I want to get 300 subscribers a month. So I've looked at like, how do I build my business? It's how many subscribers can I get that actually care about what I'm doing, right? So my goal was 300 a month. Last month it was 330, so we won. So how do I grow that? So I have a lot to learn about how to grow that. But it's been really, really exciting. The people that actually get the email are enjoying it, reading it, and that sort of thing.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. So final question as we wind down here, Billy. I appreciate you being here, of course, and you hanging out with us in the C-Roc experience on Clubhouse all the time. What is next for you? Like, if I could snap my fingers right now and make it happen, what does that look like?
I want my kids to be healthy, happy, and whole. I want my son to know his value outside of sports, but I also want to kick ass in sports. I want my wife's business to thrive. She's a life coach and is an incredible speaker. Like, I want her to be super successful. I just had a real close friend of mine have a heart attack last week. He's okay. He's like okay as you can be with a heart attack, and he's, back home and that sort of thing. And it's got me really thinking about this question again, big time. He's, like 5 years younger than me. And it was super interesting to process that again and go, what do I actually want to happen? I am now in the whirlwind. This is currently, so this is September 2023 when this is being recorded. I am in a whirlwind of, I've focused on everybody else. And even when you asked that question, I talked about everybody else, right? Like that's my natural tendency. And so I'm going like, what do I actually want? What does Billy actually want again? So I don't think I can give you an answer to that. I don't know if I necessarily know with clarity today as I sit here what that is. I know from my business and know for the folks around me what I want for them, but I don't think I can give you a good answer for myself. So I'm not going to fluff one up for you.
Well, no, that's fine. And then what I want you to consider, if you'll take this, is just the way to find that is what lights you up. Like, what lights you up? Like all the things that could happen for you, besides obviously family and all that. Look, we all I want that too for mine and yours. But what would light you up if you're by yourself? You know what I mean? And you're doing something or accomplishing something or what? That's the thing. Like what gets the juices like, wow, that's kind of thing. If you explore that, you'll find it.
Yeah, mine's speaking. So, like if I were to say, I've gotten a chance to speak a bunch recently. I've again wrote a book called Culture Reconstructed. That was my first book that came out. I've got a lot of curriculum based on that. And so I get asked to speak a lot around corporate communication and how do I collaborate with my team and a lot of those things. My favorite talk I give is how to build a championship culture. So I'm doing that a bunch more, which has been fun. If you could tell me, Billy, what would you do all day long and still be fueled, it would be that. Like I just enjoy encouraging people, giving them a grid, an idea, a thought, like, holy crap, I can use that. Let me go make a lot of money. Like that would fire me up. So that's the short answer. But yes, I definitely receive that and in the process of rethinking that as well.
Awesome, man. Well, we're going to be working on that. So hang tight, Billy, as we wind this down. I want to thank you for coming on here. Thank you all for watching, whether it's on YouTube or if you're like listening to the replay here on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you subscribe and share this awesome episode and also to the show. Let us know what you think. Give us feedback because, listen, we want to help you. We want to continue to help you and bring you great guests here on the What Are You Made Of show. It's your boy C-Roc signing off for now. Until next time, be that one. C-Roc in the building. Rust is a must.